Hello, Teddy.
Hello. How we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too shabby.
Good. So today we're going to try to get through these juvenile witnesses as they've always been known. Of course, we heard their real names in court. It was day 4 of trial, which was Tuesday, October 22nd.
Big
And we were
day.
just discussing sorry,
I said big day.
was a big day. It was, we had CSI tech. How do you say it?
Olahai.
Oli,
Ru-
Olahai,
Yep.
Chapman. We had Ry Vorhees-Garrison, Breann Wilber, Betsy Blair, Steve Mullen. We saw the video played from Libby's phone, the unedited original version for the first time, and we also heard some enhanced audio during Chapman's testimony. So Rayleigh was called to the stand from Stacy Diener by Stacy Diener, the prosecutor, at 2:42 p.m. that day, and she just went through um, what Rayleigh was up to in Delphi in 2017. She lived in Delphi. She went to the Delphi High School. She was 16, a sophomore. Um, she knew of the girls, but not personally. No, she did testify that she had a cell phone and had Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. Um, and she was asked if either of the girls were in her friend group on social media, and she said yes. Now that day, of course, they did not have school, and she decided to go to the high bridge to the trails to take pictures as she did frequently. She testified, really testified that she would go 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes she'd go once a day. And she would just walk and take pictures. And she was actually by herself quite often. If I'm not mistaken, her mother worked for Kay Weber, I think. Believe
Oh,
it
really?
was, yeah, I believe so. They didn't get into that in court, but I could be wrong, but think I do believe her mother worked at Kay Weber's house, so that could have had something to do with her spending so much time there. So she passed Brianna Wilbur's house, Bri Wilbur. She picked up her sister Isabel, who did not testify. Isabel was very young when this
Yes.
happened, so she was never named um, until now. But she did pick her sister up at her dad's house, and Bri lived along the way. She was in the same grade as her, and Bri had gone with Rayleigh a few times to the bridge, and then
Hmm.
they stopped at her mother's house and picked up Anna. So there were actually 4 of them. So we had Brianna, Anna, Isabel, and Rayleigh. So Diener put up the map on the easel and asked if she could see her mom's house. It was in the upper left near Highway 25, across from the Freedom Bridge. She said there's a nature reserve there, and she had her point out the high bridge and show where the trail was from town to go across to the Freedom Bridge.
Yeah, it was
I'm
pretty
not.
much a straight shot from the road that they all lived on. Like right up, it led right out onto where Freedom Bridge is. The path that would lead up. It was kind of weird looking at it like that. It's almost like you walk down the street and there you are at Freedom Bridge.
Hmm. I never did look to see where all that was.
Or something thereabouts. But that's how it looked on the map where she was describing that she was leaving her house and picking up all these people and then they kind of walked out and you're kind of right there.
So it
So
was pretty close.
yeah, so I mean it looked like an easy walk, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Did you ever spend any time at the Freedom Bridge?
No, I've never even been to the Freedom Bridge other than driving
Okay.
under it to get into Delphi. But
Mm, yeah. I was there twice, I think. I did walk, and actually, well, when we get to it in the testimony, I'm not sure how. Did you walk from the Freedom Bridge to the High Bridge, or vice
no,
versa?
we parked at the Mears lot when I
Okay,
and hopped the fence there.
okay. So you won't be able to help with that part, but okay, that's okay. She said that she had an iPhone and she would take pictures down under the High Bridge. There's an area there that has less brush,
I
and it's
believe that
easier
day
to
she
walk.
had a Nikon camera though.
Yep,
Yep.
yep, she does. That's right. She has an icon that she would also take. She said she took pictures of the water. They went back up the same way that they went down, and they got started back. Her dad was worried about her being too cold.
That's how she knew what the temperature was.
Did that come up in court?
Yeah, because they asked her, how do you remember what the temperature was, and she remembered her dad being concerned for her, like,
Yeah,
bring a jacket.
yeah.
And I believe
Okay.
they said when they got there, they went as soon as you get to the high bridge, they went down the right side. There's a little path there that leads underneath, and they went down there, and that's where they
Yeah.
took some photos and then came back up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what she just testified to. Exactly that. So that's on the south side, is it? No, because they
No,
didn't
that's on
walk
the north
across.
side. Right.
Okay.
I think if I'm not mistaken, and I could be,
Oh, the
I think
505?
I
Yeah.
think they said that they went to the first platform, but they didn't walk across. They just I think they went on it, and because there is a photo of from them on the bridge, correct?
Yeah, I know Bri didn't not, but we're on Rayleigh here. We do get to that, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, she said that she did see when they were almost back, that she saw the man and she said hi to him. And that was on the way back from
Mhm.
the bridge, from the high bridge.
Yep.
And she was asked if it was unusual to see people out there, and she said no, that there's often people out there. Rayleigh testified that she did not recognize him. She had to be home at 2:30, and she stated that the man kind of glared at them and he did not say hi back.
Yeah. His she pointed with her hand how much his face was covered. She pointed, up past the nose. She did that in court to kind of
Yep.
give you an idea of how much of his face was covered. And when she noticed him, he was dressed a little too warm for the weather. It was strange. I mean, if you're picture being out on a hiking trail with people that are all dressed similarly, you might have a light jacket on, but you don't have any winter weather clothing on you. And you see this person that's not only bundled
Bundled right
up
up.
with,
Yeah.
hoodie and jacket, but then you have a hat and a hood, and that looks suspicious to anybody. So yeah, no wonder that that person stuck out to them. And then to not say hi, like I know that that sounds stupid, but
Mm,
when it's just you and one other person, you'd expect at least an acknowledgement, not a glare.
yeah. Well, there was a few of them, but he was definitely off because they definitely noted that and made statements for that. So she had learned that Libby and Abby had gone missing. Bree had told her,
Hmm.
and Rayleigh testified that she thought it could have had something to do with that man. He was, quote, kind of unsettling. he seemed to be very unhappy. Sorry, he seemed to be unhappy. And she was asked if she was to get had been asked to give a statement, and Rayleigh responded the next day at school. And then she said not the day after, and it was inaudible and I couldn't quite hear it. And this is where she talked about the Nikon camera. And she stated that Bri and her both had phones and that they had opened Snapchat, and there was an option to immediately post on her story. And she said she took a picture of Bri on the bridge. At some point, you were asked if he was male or female, if it was male or female. And she said yes, and she could tell he was Caucasian. I think she said Caucasian. I apologize. I can't quite read my writing here. She
You're
was asked if,
forgiven.
pardon?
I said you're forgiven. It's okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, Rayleigh was asked if she could see his face, and she said no, that he had, and then I couldn't hear it, something over his nose, and it was over the tip of his nose. And I made a little little diagram here. So I obviously looked up for this as well. Is it you saw her? I have it in my notes, but you saw her show on her
Yeah.
face? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you think about somebody walking with their head down, not trying to be seen. You're not going to get a good look at them regardless. But then they have something covering
Yeah.
their face, and
Yeah.
you see them for a quick second, and that's it.
Right. So Rayleigh said he had darker clothes on. He was overdressed for nicer weather, what you had just pointed out. And that he had his hands in his pockets. After Libby and Abby's bodies were found, the still image of BG was released. She said, this is OJ has come on now. She said, I need to show you exhibit number 210. Bridge guy, do you recognize him? Have you seen this image? And Rayleigh stated that when I saw that image, I realized that was the man that I saw. So, of course, we're talking about the still image. Exhibit 210 is the still image of Bridge Guy that we all know, that was extrapolated from Libby's video from her phone that she had taken. So OJ asked if she was off school February 13th. She said yes, but I had cheer practice. So you had to be home at 2:30 back at your dad's. And this is where we get into the 2:15 discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. They asked her, when do you think you saw this person? She said, well, I had to be home at 2:30 because my sister had cheer. And so when they were asking her the initial questions, she said it must have been 2:15, which is obviously a problem because Libby's video is at 2:13. So that person's already well on his way to the bridge. But
Right.
let's be realistic here. If you don't remember what exact time you stepped off the trail to go home, you're going to use the only information you have. Oh, I had to be home at 2:30, so I'm sure we left at 2:15 and we saw this guy on our way out. So originally there was a big hubbub in court because people like to take anything that somebody guesses at or, said based off of a inference, and they went, "Well, hold on a second. How could it be?" They were like, "Yeah, but she was guessing based off of when she knew she had to be home."
Right.
So once they brought in the photo that they took on the bench as they were leaving, they stopped at the bench near Freedom Bridge. They were still back in the woods. They weren't out of the woods yet. That was at 126. And they said they saw
Oh,
him after that. So that's when everything got accounted for, and you realize, yeah, it was just a little girl
yeah.
making, telling them what she knew to the best of her ability. But obviously, it was well before 215.
Right. And we also, don't forget, we also had Betsy Blair, who at 1:46 p.m. saw three of the girls walking, I believe it was over Highway 25 on the old state highway bridge or something to that effect
Yeah, yeah.
in legal documents.
The Monon High Bridge. It's got the little Monon High Bridge writing on it. You go under it as you're trying to park to go to the trails. It's that little side
Oh, is that
bridge.
the one?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you take that
That's near
right
the
onto Main
CPS.
Street and then take a right, that first right on Main Street to kind of go towards where the CPS building is, there's that bridge there. That's the one she's talking about.
Right, right. Okay. Got it.
And
Okay.
once
So,
again, Betsy Blair too saw three girls. We know there were
right,
four, so
right. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, was no, I'm not gonna guess. I know Isabel was very young at that time, her sister. So I won't speculate. I want to say less than 10 years old. She probably was quite short, I would imagine.
I would assume compared to the rest of them, considering she looked like she was babysitting, so there would have to be a big discrepancy
Right.
in height and
Right.
the
Alan said
how.
that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Steve Mullen interviewed Rayleigh on February 15th. And this is where Rayleigh had said, and this is of course OJ on the cross exam here, that um that she was a few yards from the Freedom Bridge, um, but she saw BG at 2:15. That's what she had told him.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, and as you've just explained it about, makes total sense about the time, but of course their phones and all the other evidence support what the time was. Rayleigh said that he was in all black, black jeans, black boots. He was in his early 20s or 30s. He had a bigger build. And this is where she says, on February 17th, do you recall saying that he was muscular and had dirty blonde hair that was long enough to see, long enough and you could see sticking out, and that it was curly? And Rayleigh said, I don't recall saying that. And OJ OJ presented her with the transcript from that day.
Dun, dun,
Surprise, surprise.
dun.
See, it's not just Baldwin.
Oh, they are a team, aren't they?
They sure are. The transcript from February 17th, line 14. Please read it to yourself, the statement. And you said he had a square jaw and brown eyes. And Rayleigh said, I don't know why I said that, his face being covered.
Right.
Do you recall that? I don't
I don't
specifically remember that.
I don't recall it, but if I had to make a educated guess, I'm sure at that point they were flooding those girls with questions like,
Right.
"Do you remember
Yeah.
this? Would you say that he had a square jaw? And I'm sure they made guesses, and that was pointed out as, Diener even mentioned to Rayleigh, like, hey, when they were asking you these questions and you said, he was this height, she's like, did anybody give you a measuring stick? Did you have anything for reference? She said, no, it was just, give me your best estimate of things.
Right.
And that's important because
Yeah.
obviously they're not going to know the exact height of somebody that they passed by on a trail. So no matter what they say, yeah, you can tell if somebody's white or black. You can tell if they're bigger or not, or maybe the clothing that they're wearing makes them look bigger than they appear. But un- unless you're standing there next to the person and you have a ruler, you're not going to be able to give exact measurements. So the fact that that was brought up, I thought was really good on the prosecution
Mhm.
side.
Yeah, good memory because I don't remember that, and I don't have my notes on. I don't have notes on that. So
Yeah,
that's
I
great.
didn't take a lot of notes with them because most of the stuff I already knew. It was the stuff
Right.
that came out that I went, oh,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's something that adds to my working knowledge base. That's the stuff that I want to write down. I knew you were
Right.
good for the rest of it. You would have us blow by blow, so I was good.
Yeah.
it
I tried, but this day was it was
it was a
full.
lot. It was a
It
lot.
was full, and I can tell by my handwriting that I was very tired,
Mm-hmm.
as we all were. So OJ says now in 2021, she says. So they went back and they obviously went back and spoke to Rayleigh again also. I owe you an apology. I'm going to show you Defense Exhibit O or 0, I'm not sure which, printout of the map we just talked about. Please circle where you believe that you saw BG at 2:15 p.m. So I actually didn't see it. I don't know if you remember where she circled. I presume she circled near the Freedom Bridge.
No, I think when they had her circle all of those witnesses, like the people that were on the trail, they would give them maps on the stand and they would,
Yeah.
physically circle them. It's not like they went up to the TV and did it there. So whatever she circled, it's not like it was shown to us, but
Right. She said a printout. Yeah, printout of the
yeah.
map. Yeah. So that makes sense why that exhibit number is a different because one of the first exhibits was the map. So okay, 5'7". That's how tall you are, 5'7". And the man you saw is taller than you. No, I don't have her response on that.
I believe she said that she came up to like his shoulder. It was either her or Bree. They said that they came up to his
Bree said that.
Okay.
Yeah. So Diener comes back and on redirect and says, "Did you and your friends stop along the way back? And how far along were you?" She's asking about the barn in the background.
Yep, with a green roof.
Yeah, with the green
Yep.
roof. And then she says, but Diener doesn't quite. She says at the Mountain High Bridge and at the High Bridge and the Mears entrance, is that the location? And Rayleigh says no, slightly past that. We stopped at the bench to take the pictures. Now, and then she was asked if she saw the building. Did you see BG after that picture? She says yes. Now, I
Right.
just want to say, I walked a local, a good friend of mine that's a local, took me. We parked at the Freedom Bridge and we walked the trail to the High Bridge, and she actually thought that this building with this barn with the green roof, she thought that was, she thought we were at the Mears entrance at that point. So when I was reviewing my notes, I found it interesting that Diener got that mixed up as well, because, or seemed to have it a bit mixed up as well, because there is a barn there right in around the area. So when we left the Freedom Bridge, it's right there on the left-hand side, like not very far along, and then you get to the
Mm-hmm.
bench.
Yeah.
So when I
And
was reading these notes, I was like, "Oh, that's." But my friend that's a local, she actually thought that was, and of course she doesn't go down there.
right.
But she thought that it was that. So, and there is a building there off to the side of the trail. So a barn, a little
Well,
barn, but I don't remember it having a green roof, but maybe it did at that time.
It was also cleared up, as they asked them, were you, where were you on the trail? And they said we were closer to Freedom Bridge, but we weren't yet out of
Yeah.
the wooded area. So this
Yes.
bench that they're on, you can see the building in the background beyond the trees. And
Yeah.
I believe they said green roof, and they pointed it out on the aerial view map what building that was. And it was
Good.
right there before you got out of the wooded portion of the trail, right before Freedom Bridge. I mean, they made it very clear where this was.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. And I would say a lot of people would have no idea that that was there
no,
because
it's not a
it's
big
not
it's not a
talked
big
about.
iconic spot. Yeah.
No, no.
This is
And
all
act,
it's all indicative and tied to this photo, and I don't think many
yeah,
people have gone in depth on this photo other than the fact that
right.
they saw him after it was taken, and it was taken at 1:26.
So that's where we're at. She talks about this photo that Bri and her and part of her sister on the left side are in at 1:26 p.m. And then she was asked, "Do you think it's possible that Bri also had pics?" And she said it's possible. By the way, more specific information comes up about that with the green roof and whatnot in Bri's testimony, but we're still on Rayleigh here. But it's good because of course we have the photo at 1:26, and somewhere along the way in the legal filings prior to trial, it was brought out that that photo was sent to Rayleigh's mother, I believe it was, at 1:26. So they would have all of that for the timestamp. So again, negating the 215 memory issue that Rayleigh had.
Yeah, but Turbo, we don't have it. That's the thing. We need this information.
Well, we'll get it.
When?
When they're done finishing the transcripts for the important appellate process, there'll be plenty of exhibits for everyone to chew on.
I don't believe it. Chewing the facts.
Well, I have confidence that we'll get all of this for everyone to verify. I don't know about the transcripts. I mean, I think they're going to be probably at least $20,000 to buy,
At least 20 or
but
$30,000.
I would think so. Yeah, yeah. So she was asked, and we were talking about this earlier. Have you been asked were you asked to estimate his weight and height, etc.? And she really said no. When you saw this picture of BG, what did you think? She really said, I was certain that that was the man that I saw. So we're back to the two, and she puts up the 2-foot wide by 3-foot high exhibit of Bridge Guy from the still from Libby's video. And so really said, without doubt, she was certain that was the man that she saw that day.
Yeah, and I want to point something out too with Rayleigh. I noticed with her, even as she was walking up to the stand, she looked uncomfortable, and she
Yeah,
definitely seemed more nervous than the other witnesses that day. I'm talking about,
that's what
Bri
I thought
Wilbur
too.
and Betsy Blair. But
Yep.
when it came to the photo of Bridge Guy, she like snapped out of it. She goes, "No, that is the guy. No doubt
Right.
about it. That's the guy. Call that what you want, but to me, there's no doubt. It's not hard to tell when you get a recollection or a reminder like, hey, what about this person? You're like, oh my god, yeah, that's him. So
Right. Betsy Blair also was very confident. All of
they
these
all were, yeah.
witnesses. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll just say that Kevin and Anya from Murder Sheet did an excellent interview with one of the jurors, the only juror that has spoken out so far. And she did say that Rayleigh's testimony was important. She specifically named Ry Vorhees-Garrison and her testimony. So, and your observation about her being uncomfortable, I thought the same thing.
Mhm.
And but like you say, she was sure about what it was obviously very important that she knew that that was BG. That it was very important, that testimony and that
Yeah.
the time that they had for
Yeah.
when that happened, because of course it correlates to when his Ford Focus was on the Hoosier Harvestor video.
Well, and if you think about it too, all the other questions that they're asking her, it's all supposition. You know, what did this guy look like? She
Yeah,
gives you what she remembered from 2017. But throughout this whole thing, like she's at trial. This is the end game here. And she's still, yeah, he looked like he was in his 20s or
yeah.
30s. And yeah. But then when it came to something like, is this the person you saw? No hesitation. That shows you something. And I know people will take that for, oh, well, of course they coached her. They're like, yeah, this is the
So
guy. But
yeah, and to your point, on that point, the next thing that OJ says is the picture you saw influenced your memory, right? And Rayleigh says probably, but I can say with confidence that is the man that I saw.
mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody that doesn't have a ton of confidence is that solid in her answering of a question like that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Unless
And
you
that was
unless you really
actually,
want doubt.
pardon me?
Unless you really want there to be doubt and you won't accept it unless, there's something iffy about it. But to a normal person, that's like, yep, okay. She knows what she knows. She's seen the picture. She's one of the only people that saw this guy. That's the guy.
Right. Yep. Yeah, very important testimony. And that's actually the end of Rayleigh. We're at 3:45 p.m. and Judge Gall requested that counsel come forward at that point. They had a 3-minute, not a sidebar with the white noise, but they did go up to the bench. I don't have anything, uh, and then actually the state calls Breann Wilber. And this is back to Diener. Did you have anything else that you'd like to say about Rayleigh?
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah. Yeah, she wasn't on there. What did I say? Was the time she was on there a little while, I guess. Did I say the time was there?
Time all blended together. It was hard to tell.
That was an hour. It was actually an hour.
Well, after you've been there
2:42
for a couple of hours on no sleep, might not
to.
seem that long.
I'm quite positive that I missed. I know that I've missed a little bit of things in there, because, like you say, well, I was trying to get it all, but I do know that I was very tired this day. I can tell by my notebook. But like you say, we knew a lot of it, but I think that we got the bulk of it there
Mm-hmm.
from what she said, like more the specifics of what she was describing in her various statements.
Oh yeah.
Physical description of clothing, but basically she was all Rayleigh said she thought that he was all in black, basically. So at 3:48 we have Bri Wilbur come on. In 2017, she was a student at Delphi High, 16 years old, grade 10. She knew Libby. She knew Libby through Kelsey. Kelsey's one of Bri's best friends. And she primarily knew Libby through Snapchat. So she took a picture of herself and what she was doing and put it on her story on Snapchat, which
Yep.
Libby did end up viewing, which we come into a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And she was asked if Abby or Libby were on her Snap list, and she stated that Libby was a friend on Snap with her, with Bri. And on Monday, February 13th, there was no school. They went. She said that she typically went with friends to the trail, never alone. It was within walking distance of her home. She would go with Rayleigh and Anna, and she lived close, like you had mentioned. They were all very close, and she would take pictures on her camera, which is a Nikon. Or actually, I'm not sure if she had the. I think
No,
Rayleigh had the Nikon.
it was Rayleigh.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think because I wrote Nikon in brackets, so I wasn't sure on that. She would not cross the high bridge, but she would go 1 to 2 steps in, maybe, she stated.
Mm-hmm.
And Diener says, we have a large map. Would you be able to show us the path that you would take? And she showed that there was a gravel patch and on the far left, and then they would go from over to the Freedom Bridge and to the High Bridge, following the path in the middle of the map. When you went to the High Bridge, there were a few people as we saw a few people as we were walking, but not at the High Bridge. We got there.
She mentioned this was the only point of difference
Contention?
between her and Rayleigh's story, because I think Rayleigh said that she didn't see anybody other than the guy, all dressed
Right.
in black, whatever. But I think Bri said that she saw somebody walking their dog on the way. I think it was coming back from the High Bridge. But she just said like they passed them and they were walking in the same direction. I don't think they said hi or anything, but she did mention seeing somebody walking their dog. And
Did
Rayleigh
she
didn't say that. Yeah.
specifically state that? Okay. Well, that wouldn't be David Riley then. That would be, was it Brian Mass or something, wasn't it? This didn't
I
come up
can't
in
tell you.
trial. Just okay. Well, that would be if I could be getting mixed up. I think Brian Mass is the one with the dog. But anyway, well, okay, I don't have that in my notes about the man walking the dog. So Bri saw him, but Rayleigh didn't. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay, good. That's good information because geez, I don't have that in my notes.
It's a small thing.
Yeah. Okay. So well, it's important. That's
No, it is,
long been,
but
yeah.
yeah.
So they did a Snapchat post. She used the Snap app. And after the High Bridge, getting ready to leave. Yeah, she said a few times we saw a few people. She saw a few people. She took pictures on the way back, one in particular, and then immediately Baldwin objects. So I'm curious about this picture. Like, do you know what they're getting at here? Because there's been an awful lot of discussion. When I was reading my notes, I was like, gee, I didn't catch the nuances there on this. But Baldwin firmly objected at this about Bri talking about the photos, one in particular, on her way back.
No, but what I would think is it's something to do with Snapchat and how, everybody in that court had a hard time dealing with Snapchat, and
Right.
so I'm not positive, but if I had to
Here we
guess.
are. You're probably right because Diener says, was there a last picture that you took when you left the trail that you gave to law enforcement? And Bri says yes. And then she says, was the timestamp from the Snapchat map? And Bri says yes. So then Exhibit 211, they moved to admit and publish Ms. Wilbur. And I can't read what it says. Do you recognize? And she says yes. So Exhibit 211 is the one that we want to look at.
Mhm.
Because this was a contentious, like, it had been brought up by Diener. She wanted it in, and then Baldwin was objecting to it, and then Diener did end up getting it in. So maybe it was the weight. I don't know. I don't know what the deal was there. We want to look at 211, okay? Throw her on the list. Like, we're not going to look at them all. I'm sure it's not that exciting, but it must. I mean, it just proves, it proves what happened, which is why Baldwin didn't want it in. So it's that exhibit is the last photo that Bri took when she left the trail, and for some reason Snap, and I have this highlighted in my book that the Snap timestamp was from the Snapchat map. So, did you have anything else on that, Tenny?
Not about her photos. The only thing that I can say about the photo is that Libby messaged her on Snapchat as like a reply to her story saying, "Hey, are you guys still at the High Bridge?" She was like, "No, we're just leaving," but that was right before they left to, get there. But
Right.
yeah, the way that court works and what's going to be an issue, and then them having their little sidebars, don't even ask me, because I couldn't keep up with all that stuff, and without having the picture up on the screen to have some context
Right.
as to
Yeah.
what the argument's about, forget about it.
Okay, well, they must have shown a picture, because I have a little picture, or I just can't, I don't know if this is, I don't remember seeing a picture, so maybe I'm doing a little bridge picture here in my notes for no reason. I'm ashamed to say, but like, there's a lot of times where, and I'm sure you feel this way too, that you just can't remember because there was just so much.
Yeah, and again, when some of the photos were, printed out, like a lot of the photos that like Dave McCain took, those were
Yeah,
all on paper that they gave to him
right.
to look at. We didn't
Yeah,
actually get to see those. So this
yeah,
could have been one of
yeah,
those.
yeah. You're right. It was beyond belief, really. Like, that was one part of the trial that I was very surprised about. I figured we would be looking at all of this stuff on the TV, and reviewing and everything. But when you think about it, they publish them to the jury, and they give them for the accordion files, basically. They were huge.
Yeah.
I remember I think it was halfway through the state's case, and I was thinking they're going to have to get them a second folder for all this stuff, because I looked up and it was inches thick.
I know. I,
It
I
looked
was
like,
just thinking about all the people on the internet that would give one of their limbs to have this folder to go through. I was like, wow, you guys are making out like bandits. Holy, you got it all right there. You can just look over,
yeah,
do what you got to
yeah.
do. Yeah.
24/7, grinding
Uh,
through all the exhibits for months on end.
ugh.
Um, so yeah, that's a good point. But when I thought about it, when I was thinking about this too, not in trial because I was, absorbed, but thinking about it in retrospect, I think that it would have taken. Imagine how long the trial would have taken if they had done that. Like,
Oh my God. Listen, just just some of the things like the flubs that happened with the stuff that they put up on the screen. Oh my God, we would have
I
been there
didn't think it was.
forever.
I
No, but
honestly,
there were definitely times like,
yeah,
oh, this phone call that was supposed to be, the third phone call in. Yeah, I forgot to put that on the flash drive, so I have to go back, go to my office, put that on, whatever. You have the picture of the F tree that they showed you, and it was upside down when it first came in, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? What are you trying to show? And it was like, oh, sorry, yep, that got flipped as it got put in here. So there were things like that happened, And I can only imagine if you add 100 more photographs or videos onto that, what type of
Wow.
problems there would have been.
Well, I just mean for length of time alone to put this stuff up. Like, I mean, as an example, when they went through the 26 or 28 exhibits from the October 13th search of his house, like they were up there for 2 seconds and then gone. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like it was almost impossible, but of course the jury, the jury being the ones that matter, they received hard copies of everything. So
Right.
they could review everything as and I'm sure they did. So I mean, I had hoped to see some of this stuff, but we'll see it. We'll get a lot of these exhibits and things. They'll be released for sure. If anybody wants to still has interest to review them,
There'll be a lot of interest. Oh boy.
Yeah.
You have 3
Yeah.
pictures come out of a phone and all of a sudden it's like Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, her poor phone, geez.
All those burnt leaves, man.
Don't go there. No conspiracy theories allowed. No tinfoil hats on this channel.
It was a
There's plenty
controlled
of
burn,
places.
ladies and gentlemen. Ugh.
So actually, Diener asked Miss Wilbur, "Will having pictures assist you? Will it help you to see the pics?" And she says yes. So on the first page, describe the photo. So we didn't get to see it, but she describes it. It's a picture of the high bridge, just the bridge at 12:43 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I don't quite follow this, but it says third page, second photo.
Maybe
We're
as they were
already at
showing her, it was the
Yeah,
third page of photos. Yeah.
right. The third page, second photo. We're already at the high bridge, and then at 1:26 p.m. we're on the way back at one of the benches. After the picture was taken at the bench, did you see people? Yes, Bri said. 1 to 2 people on the way out.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well, that's what I have here.
I believe you.
Did any Pardon?
I said I believe you. I wasn't aware that she saw anybody other than, Ricky on the way out.
Is there anyone that caught your attention? Yes. Why did they catch your attention? It was a warmer. I'm wondering if I don't know. This is what I have written. There must be. Well, yeah. I do have 1 to 2 people on the way out. So well, this is back to your walking the dog guy.
There you go, the dog walker. Okay.
That makes sense. I was
Yeah.
mixed up in the times here when I was in my head in my notes here. Yeah, so the other one is Alan. So you said Bri saw the man with a dog. You're 100% on that.
I am 99.9%.
Okay.
I mean, I was definitely in an odd frame of mind, but yeah, I distinctly remember her.
Okay.
There was a difference between her and Rayleigh, and Rayleigh said she didn't see anybody else on the trail, and then Bri said she saw a guy or whatever with a dog, and I thought for sure it was going to come up as like, oh my god, well, you guys obviously weren't paying too much attention if one person saw someone and the other person didn't see anybody. I think that's why I remembered it.
Yeah. Well, that was a good catch because I don't have that part, but I do have written down 1 to 2 people on the way out. Anyone caught your attention? Yes. Why did they catch your attention? It was a warmer day in February. I thought it was kind of strange. Rayleigh says hi to everybody, and everyone says hi back, but he didn't. He knew where he was going. Now, I have a note here that Bri is looking at the jury while she's telling them all about this.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew where he was going. she said, quote, he had creepy, weird vibes.
As a typical 16-year-old would say.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't, I mean, yeah, I mean,
And
you know,
speaking of too, I actually wrote this in my notes. She did a really good job. And I think it
yeah,
was the difference between her and Rayleigh. Like, they both did good, but
yeah.
she wasn't hesitant about what she was saying, and she would turn
Well,
to the jury and talk to them. And that was really,
yes, yeah.
yeah. If anybody's ever a witness in a case, turn towards the jury and talk to them. That's good stuff.
Yeah, well, she was telling them. So, like I said, so many of the state witnesses did that. They did talk to the jury. And I mean, you'd expect that from the expert witnesses. But there were many that did. And Bri Wilbur was one of them. She was telling them what she saw and what happened. And if
Mm-hmm.
she said there were creepy, weird vibes on him, I mean, there were, because look what he went on to do. So I mean, instinct, right? Can't quite put your finger on it, but something's off.
Well,
You
and
know,
let's bring up this too, because this was the most important to me with her testimony. Is she said that I know that you're in the middle of your timeline of your notes and everything, but I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit.
that's okay.
So she said that she was with Kelsey at Kelsey's house that night on the 13th, and they came and questioned her, and she told them about this guy on the trail that she saw, and she described him exactly the way that you've read in the different filings. She talked about Bridge Guy before they ever knew the girls were dead, before they ever knew that there was a video with this
Mm,
person on there. So when you think about all the other witnesses saying, hey, yeah, of course, once the video comes out and you see this person, it biases you. She was talking about this guy that night before anyone knew anything. And that was really big for me. And I
wow.
underlined it like 90 times because I'm like, there you go. They obviously thought this guy was weird.
Yeah.
There was something about him other than the fact that he was dressed to the
Right.
nines. So that was good. I was really glad that she said that, and that was a
Great.
fact of the case. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Teddy, I'm just going to pause this for 1 second.
All right.
Okay. Thanks for that about the that information, because that's critical, and I didn't get that. That's great, Teddy. Um so yeah, she had creepy, weird vibes from him, and she proceeded back home. She agreed with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where we get into, I guess this is around the time that must have come out.
What?
Oh, this is Libby.
What
Libby,
is?
I just have she. Libby messaged Bree and asked her if they were still there
Mm-hmm.
because of one of the pictures
On Snapchat.
in Snapchat, and she
Yep.
in the story. And I have here, slide up and typed the message. Received message from Libby German. Diener says, "Were you still on the trail when Libby messaged you?" And Bree said,
Yes.
"No, maybe 10 minutes ago."
See, I thought when she was saying that they were at the end of the trail towards Freedom Bridge. They were still on the trail, but she didn't want Libby to think like, yeah, we're still here, we're hanging out. Like they were about to go. I don't know if it was before they saw Bridge Guy or after, but from my recollection, and I'll totally take your word for it because I didn't write it down, but to me it sounded like they were still on the trail, but they were right at the end. And she got that snap from Libby saying, hey, are you guys still at the high bridge? And she's like, no, we're getting ready to leave.
So the last photo, though, The last photo that Bri took, was that the story picture or no?
I don't
You know
know.
what I
I
mean?
can't tell you that.
We
I'm not.
don't
I'm
have
not
that.
sure. I would assume if Abby and Libby are planning on going to the High Bridge, and Bree took that photo at 12:43 of the bridge, I would think. I don't know, but I would think that that's the one that she commented on, saying, "Hey, are you guys still there? We're gonna be there."
But they were
But
still there at that time.
yeah, but not on the High Bridge. Like
Hmm.
at she took the photo
Yeah.
at 12:43. They walked. They were all the way down towards Freedom Bridge, and that's from my recollection. That's when she got the message from Libby saying, "Hey, are you guys still here?" And that's why I would say that photo on the bridge is the one that she messaged her about because that's where they were going. But I could be off 100%.
Well, just jumping back to what we just covered, was there a last picture when you left the trail? When you left the trail that you gave to law enforcement, the timestamp is from the snap map. So when she left the trail, I would say that that was not the one. But then it's a little bit confusing here because Miss will having the pictures assist you? Will it help you to see the pictures? Well, the first photo is a picture of the bridge at 12:43. Well, that would not be when they were leaving. I
Right.
wouldn't say.
Right.
So it's easy to kind of think one to the other, but I would say the timestamp from the snap map, that would be the one I would think from the story that Libby, and we hear this now, if you're she messaged when she looked at the story,
Yes.
and she slid up, typed the message, received message from Libby. Were you still at the trail when she messaged you? Were you still at the trail when she messaged you? Diener asked. And Bree says, no, maybe 10 minutes ago.
Then
Left
that's what
10
we're going to
minutes
go
ago.
with. Because,
What's that?
yeah, I said then that's what we're going to go with. Because, like I said, I was just spitballing. But yeah, I
Oh, yeah,
mean,
no. No, no, it's
if that picture of the bridge wasn't on her story, there's no way for Libby to know that they were there at all. You know,
right.
so yeah,
I think the
whatever.
way that all kind of flowed out at that point, but I would think that we could probably infer that the last photo that Baldwin didn't want in, that Snapchat
The
when Libby
126.
contacted her, because it again it confirms, it confirms what happened and
Right, nails the timeline down.
nails it exactly down. Yeah. So Diener says later in the day that you learned that Libby was missing. Yes, we learned when they were at home, Becky tried to contact her. Becky tried to contact Bree because Kelsey had been with Bree. And Diener asked, here's where your information comes in. Later that evening, did you give a statement? And she says yes. About the people that you saw on the trail. She says yes. So February 13th at night, Bri Wilbur gives a statement about the people that she saw on the trail.
Mm-hmm.
She told them there was a person that she saw that day that was a bit off. Quote, he was walking with a purpose, end quote. Covered, his head was covered. His head was tucked down. And she told law enforcement the night of the 13th that information.
Yes,
So that's
ma'am.
good. So the next day, so we're at 4:03 p.m. and Diener says the next day you learn they were deceased. She says yes. Did you see the image noted as BG? She said yes. Exhibit number 210 was shown on the news and the media. And then we come into something that you mentioned during Rayleigh's testimony about it all being very woody still when they took that picture at 1:26 p.m. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a green roof on the building, and the first bench near the Freedom Bridge at 1:26 p.m. That's that's the picture. How long? And so Diener says, how long after that did you see him? And Bri says, I know we were still in the woods. It was still very woody. We were in an area. We were not in an area where we could see the Hoosier Heartland Highway. So they're still in the woods. That's the time. Just after that picture, that's where they were in the trail when they saw him. And then she confirmed it was Indiana local time and that the timestamp was accurate. And she says yes. Did you have anything? Because we get into Baldwin starts up on a cross-examination here.
Lovely.
Pardon me?
I said lovely. My favorite.
You spent some time talking about this guy that you say creeped you out. You stood as high as his upper forearm?
As his upper forearm. What? What kind of question is that? That's like him
what I
trying to
have written
explain
down.
what side of the bridge you're on. He stood as high as his upper forearm. So like below the elbow?
Oh gosh.
Oh man. Bring out the
He was
transcripts.
he was a taller guy, and then he holds up the 2x3 photo of Bridge Guy. And Bri says, that's the guy. You described him as a muscular guy? In August of 2020, Detective Vito and the U.S. Marshals interviewed you. Can we review your words? I knew you were waiting for that. Transcript review from August 2020 with the U.S. Marshals and Detective Vito, which, of course, we know this is when they arrested Keegan Kline with the separate case for the Anthony Shots information. So we some of these witnesses Bri Wilbur was interviewed. Page 22 of the transcript, line 16. Does this refresh you? So he says, was he a younger guy? Bri says, I'm not sure. Muscular guy? She says, yeah. Early 30s? And Bri responds, it was 3 years later. I was 16.
Dun dun dun.
The windbreaker was not heavy. It was light. She's the one that said about him having a windbreaker, I guess.
Well, even looking at that video and the photo, you can't really tell. It does kind of look like windbreaker material, but unless you're standing next to the guy as he's there, it's kind of hard to gauge. I mean, even for them that were right there, yeah, like you look at the video, and me looking at the video doesn't necessarily look like Carhartt material, because Carhartt jackets are typically a lot more rough, and they don't, I don't know, I don't want to say flow, but
fold, kind of crinkle, like
no, but like the material is more, like the duck canvas, like rougher type of material. You wouldn't expect it to shine as much, but in the video and the picture, it does look like more of a windbreaker material. But that's us looking at the video. Even somebody walking past this guy, you have to think about, it's them walking past him once, some random person.
Yeah.
You're not getting all this information and locking it down.
Amazing.
So it's
really
all guessing.
Yeah. Well, oh gosh, yeah.
But we want exacts.
You said, Baldwin says, you said he had something on his head. Bri says, I couldn't see hair. Did you see a guy that looked to be around 20 and had brown poofy hair? Bri says, I don't recall. And then Diener says, okay.
Are you cracking yourself up?
No. Okay, this is the part I'm gonna put a disclaimer here. This is the last thing for witness Bri Wilbur. I have no idea why I have this in here. I don't remember it. I cannot find I can find one article on this to try to confirm. I haven't talked to anybody. Teddy doesn't remember it. So this could be wrong. I'm just gonna say this right now. I think, according to my notes, I have the Diener said, did anyone look like this that you saw on the trail that day? And Diener holds up the first sketch that was released, the OB, otherwise known as the OBG sketch. And Bri answered no. And that's the end of the testimony at 4:10 p.m. on day 4. Again, I could totally be wrong because I have no recollection. I know the defense wanted the sketches in. I don't know that we ever even received a ruling on them, did we?
I don't remember, and honestly, I don't care because it doesn't really matter.
I
Maybe it
know.
was the
So
sketch,
this
maybe it
is
wasn't.
literally what I have. This is literally what I have that Diener held up, and I just can't think of anything else she would have held up where Bri said it was not him. Like that's all I got.
Let's phone a friend, Aspen, and see if he knows.
I wish I could. I thought about it. I did. I asked you. So we'll leave you with that cliffhanger.
We'll get clarification from other folks.
Well, we will.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. Like, that's what I got. So it could totally be wrong. I don't remember it. It seems to be very sketchily reported, but that's what I wrote. But that's it. That's all I I'm really doubting myself here. And I'm probably wrong, but I can't say. I don't know what else she would have held up. That's what I have. Now we didn't have jury. I don't have that we had jury questions for either one of these witnesses. Do you remember any?
I don't remember any. Most of the jury questions that I remember were the ones that I would have a question 5 minutes into testimony, and I'd be really aggravated because I'm like, answer my fucking question. And of course, I'm not asking questions. But then the jury would come up and they would ask my question. It was like the very first one, and I'd have a sigh of relief. But no, this day I don't. I mean, we started off seeing the video that day, and then we had all the people doing all the phone stuff, and then we got to these, 2 witnesses. Well, Betsy Blair was at the end of this day, so we're sitting there. It was such a strange experience because we're sitting there looking at these people like they're Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, and no one else in that courtroom is looking at them the same way. We're like, holy shit. Wow, Betsy Blair, let's see her. Come on, bring her up. Let's go. And it was a lot.
Like that.
I did. I mean, you've seen these people's names and you've heard, they gave their testimony, but you don't get all of it. So as I expected going into this, I expected that there was going to be 1 or 2 things that I heard that were going to be these big bombshell revelations. And so when these people came up, I was ready to go. I couldn't believe I had just watched this video, and now I'm gonna get to hear from Bri Wilbur. I was like, oh God, this is crazy. So it was a big day, and
it was a big day.
We were exhausted.
Every day was a big day.
Yeah, that first week was,
yeah. I mean, we were only there for a couple of days of the defense witnesses, but I mean, they were wrapped up pretty quick. They didn't have, they had some experts that they put on, but we did get the first couple of days from them. And I mean, the entire state's case, we've all been waiting for so long.
Mm-hmm.
That there wasn't one witness or one moment for me that I wasn't just, I wouldn't say I was in the head of like it being Brad Pitt up there or something, but like, I mean, I was,
you think about any case, right? Armchair detectives, you're sitting at home, you're watching YouTube, you get involved with a case, and you're looking at these people, and you're like, oh yeah, you know their names. Like these are random people. But then as the years go on, and you start realizing how important they are, and once you hear them called up to the stand, like you get a little antsy, you get a little, excited to hear what they have to say, even just to put a face to the name. But yeah, it was a big day. There was a lot of stuff that
Right.
second day, and
Yeah, and
yeah,
then we had Betsy Blair come on. And so Bri was only on for half an hour. She ended at 4:10, and boom, there we go. Betsy Blair's on her way up. Like it was crazy, really. It was a crazy day with all this information.
mm-hmm.
And they
Oh
all,
yeah,
they all said the same thing. They were very firm that the man in Libby's video, BG, was who they saw that day, and Sarah Carba as well. She come up the next day. So
it was very, very straightforward. I mean, most of the trial
it
was very,
was.
very straightforward. There were no big bombshells, but
No,
the
no.
stuff that the news missed, that
Mm,
people that follow this case really need to know. It's the stuff that they talked about in between the major facts. We all
right.
knew that the major facts, but
Yeah.
once they start talking about it, it comes
Oh,
down to
yeah.
one word in a lot of this stuff that changes the whole meaning of what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
that's why days like that day, I didn't take a lot of notes, because I'm like, yeah, I know that, but oh, you saw somebody with a dog? Like, okay, that's new to me.
Right.
So,
And now I'm telling you that Diener held the sketch up. I will say I have. Did you remember that about the U.S. Marshals? Because I had kind of forgotten
oh
about it
yeah,
myself.
no, I remember that. Matter of fact, a couple of months before, I was going back through all, like, the whole um, document dump that happened summer of 2023. And I'm going back through, and I'm like, why did they question her at the U.S. Marshal's office? That seems like a strange place to question a witness like that. Like,
Right.
knowing that it's Bri, I go, what was the purpose? You're always trying to figure out
Well,
why they
because
did what they did.
Anthony Schott's account had communicated with her.
Right, but you'd think that they would go to her house or something. Like, they bring her to the U.S. Marshal Service office. Like,
I don't know that it was at their office, but they did interview her.
well, I didn't know that either. But the way that it looks on paper, you're going, what's the
Mm.
bigger meaning here? You're always looking for,
Well, there certainly was with the involvement of that
yeah.
particular
Well, and
agency.
especially the fact that Vito was the one doing it.
Yeah.
You peg him to Klein, and that makes
Oh,
sense.
for
But
sure.
at the time, I was
August
like,
2020.
huh.
I mean, that's what it was,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it was how these coincidences could possibly have happened with these girls. I mean, it's just downright scary, is what it is.
Yeah,
But
that's
hopefully
life.
everyone is safer for it. I'm sure that there's countless you know
Carry a gun, ladies.
well
Go get
there's
you a
lots of
piece.
lessons that think good things that have ended up coming from this horrible tragedy with
Mm-hmm.
Libby and Abby, and um, certainly the rest of Klein was, and whoever else from the tentacles that they took down. I mean,
I'm sure they're still in the throes of all that. I'm
yeah,
sure there's
oh
still
yeah,
people coming out of the woodwork. There are a
yeah,
lot of scumbags out there.
I know. Well, thank you very much, Teddy.
Thank you.
It was great to go over this the juvenile witnesses with you, and
Always.
we'll be looking forward to our next one, which we're going to tackle Major Pat Cicero's testimony during trial. We're
Mm.
going to do that really soon, probably our next one. So
Be on the lookout.
thanks to everyone for listening.
Oh yeah.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye bye.